In the summer of 1944, German generals laughed at the Americans. They thought Patton's Third Army was doomed, stranded 400 miles from their supply lines. But they didn't know about the Red Ball Express, a relentless convoy of 6,000 trucks driven by 23,000 men, mostly African American soldiers, who defied every rule of warfare. This is the story of how American logistics crushed Nazi strategy, proving that in modern war, trucks can be mightier than tanks. Stay with us till the end to see how these unsung heroes changed the course of history. August 19, 1944. Deep in East Prussia, at the Wehrmacht's headquarters, General Oberst Alfred Jodl pored over intelligence reports. The Western Front was crumbling. The Allies had broken out of Normandy, and General George S. Patton's Third Army was charging across France at a blistering pace. Jodl's staff had done the math. Patton's forces, now 400 miles from their Normandy supply depots, were burning through fuel and ammunition faster than any army could sustain. An armored division needed 150,000 gallons of fuel daily to keep moving. A single Sherman tank guzzled half a mile per gallon on roads, worse off road. Patton commanded 12 divisions, infantry and armor, advancing on a 60-mile front. That meant 12,000 tons of supplies daily, hauled over damaged roads the Germans had sabotaged during their retreat. To Jodl, the conclusion was obvious: Patton's blitz would stall within days, maybe hours. The Germans had seen this before. Their own blitzkrieg in Russia had collapsed not because of enemy resistance, but because supply lines couldn't keep up. Horse-drawn wagons, 80% of German transport, couldn't match panzer speeds. Railways failed due to mismatched gauges. Jodl believed history was repeating itself. Patton would grind to a halt, giving the Wehrmacht time to regroup at the Seine River, maybe even hold until winter. What Jodl didn't know was that 125 miles away, a revolution was already in motion. On August 25, 1944, in a requisitioned French chateau near Lisieux, Lieutenant Colonel Larenniers stood before a room of skeptical officers. Patton's Third Army was consuming supplies at an unprecedented rate, outpacing every traditional logistics model. Railways were too slow, scheduled convoys too rigid, and depot-to-depot systems had collapsed under the strain. Ayres unveiled a radical plan, a one-way highway system from Cherbourg and the Normandy beaches straight to the front lines. Every truck will run 20 hours a day, he declared. No stopping except for gas or emergencies. We'll deliver 12,500 tons daily, minimum. They called it the Red Ball Express, named after railway slang for priority freight shipments. It was a logistics operation so audacious it defied every principle of German military science. 2 parallel highways, one for loaded trucks heading east, one for empties returning west. Headlights on 24/7, ignoring blackout protocols. 5-minute convoy intervals, averaging 35 miles per hour. Mobile maintenance units every 50 miles. Military police checkpoints yanking any truck under 25 mph off the road. Colonel Charles O. Thrasher, overseeing the advanced section of the communication zone, called it impossible. We need 140 truck companies, 5,958 vehicles, running at 90% availability, he said. No logistics textbook allows for this. Yet, within 36 hours, the impossible was real. On August 26, 1944, the Red Ball Express roared to life. Drivers from the 3,916th Quartermaster Truck Company climbed into their GMC CCKW 2.5-ton trucks, nicknamed Deuce and a Halfs, loaded with artillery shells for Patton's guns at Melun, 300 miles east. These weren't just any drivers. Of the 23,000 men who would eventually power the Red Ball, 75% were African American soldiers, serving in a segregated U.S. Army. These men, barred from combat roles, denied equal treatment, and unable to eat in white restaurants back home, were about to keep Patton's war machine moving. They turned the highways into a living artery of war, painting slogans on their trucks: Patton's Blood Bank, Hitler, Here We Come, Detroit to Berlin Express. They created their own rules: slow trucks pulled over instantly, breakdowns were shoved into ditches, and anything under 20 miles per hour was a roadblock. This was no ordinary military operation, it was a culture of defiance, ingenuity, and sheer will. The drivers worked 20-hour shifts, fueled by benzodrine and determination, knowing every mile they drove was a blow against Nazi ideology and their own country's prejudice. By August 28, German reconnaissance units were stunned. From positions overlooking the Red Ball routes, Aufklärung 116 radioed, continuous vehicle column, headlights visible for 20 kilometers. No spacing, no blackout discipline. Estimated 1,000 vehicles per hour. This violated every tenet of German military doctrine. Headlights at night begged for air attacks. Tight convoys were perfect artillery targets. A single stalled truck should have choked the whole system. Yet the Americans didn't care. General Lieutenant Edgar Feuchtinger, commanding the 21st Panzer Division, watched from a concealed vantage point on August 30. His report to Army Group B was laced with alarm: the enemy operates a supply system beyond our comprehension. Vehicles pass every 30 seconds, day and night, without pause. They don't hide, don't disperse, don't follow rules we understand. This isn't military science, it's mass production applied to warfare. The Germans couldn't grasp it. Their logistics emphasized concealment and conservation. Americans bet on volume and redundancy, assuming 20% mechanical failure and planning for it. Where Germans followed rigid procedures, Americans improvised hourly. The Red Bull's first week, August 25 to 31, delivered 89,939 tons of supplies, averaging 12,848 tons daily over 686-mile round trips. It consumed 300,000 gallons of fuel daily just to keep itself running. German logistics officers, still reliant on horse-drawn wagons for 80% of their transport, dismissed these numbers as propaganda. They weren't. The Red Ball Express wasn't just a convoy, it was a showcase of American industrial might. The GMC CCKW trucks were marvels of mass production. By war's end, General Motors had churned out over 500,000 of them, more trucks than the entire German military had of all vehicle types combined. These deuce-and-a-halfs had all-wheel drive, automatic tire inflation, waterproofing for 30-inch water crossings, and engines that ran on low-grade fuel. American maintenance philosophy baffled the Germans. Where German mechanics rebuilt engines, Americans swapped them out. Where Germans rationed parts, Americans discarded entire trucks for minor issues. Where Germans relied on master mechanics, Americans trained thousands of competent ones to handle 80% of repairs. When trucks broke down, 1,800 daily mobile units fixed them roadside in 15 minutes or pushed them aside. Engines were replaced in 45 minutes with mobile cranes. When roads clogged, drivers carved new paths, commandeered French buses, even painted captured German vehicles olive drab and pressed them into service. Bridges destroyed by retreating Germans? American engineers rebuilt them in hours, like the 14-hour temporary bridge at Mantes, which Germans estimated would take 6 weeks. The Red Ball built bypasses from bombed-out rubble, created 40 new bridges, 15 fuel depots, 26 maintenance stations, and 8 temporary cities for drivers, all while the operation ran full tilt. The Germans were particularly stunned by American fuel management. The Red Ball Express burned 300,000 gallons of gasoline daily just to operate, more than entire German armies received. Yet fuel never ran out. Operation Pluto, pipelines under the ocean, laid fuel lines across the English Channel, undetected by German intelligence. By September 1944, fuel flowed to forward dumps every 25 miles along the Red Ball route. Tanker trucks ran parallel convoys, ensuring no vehicle waited more than 10 minutes to refuel. General Major Walter Warlimont, studying aerial reconnaissance, wrote, "The Americans have fuel dumps larger than our entire strategic reserves. They burn more gasoline moving gasoline than we allocate to panzer divisions. This isn't war, it's industrial overflow." This abundance enabled Patton's Third Army to move at speeds German doctrine deemed impossible. An armored division, by German calculations, could advance 20 to 30 miles daily under perfect conditions. Patton's divisions, fueled by the Red Ball, averaged 40 to 60 miles daily for weeks. On September 1, 1944, the 4th Armored Division surged 35 miles by noon, paused for resupply, and found Red Ball trucks waiting with fuel and ammo. They pushed another 32 miles by dusk, a 67-mile advance in one day. German planners, assuming a 30-mile maximum, were left scrambling. The Red Ball Express wasn't just a triumph of industry, it was a testament to human endurance. Drivers, mostly African American, worked 72-hour shifts, battling exhaustion, fog, and damaged roads. Hallucinations from fatigue and benzodrine were common. Accidents claimed 300 lives, trucks collided, overturned, or burned when engines overheated. Yet morale soared. These men knew they were making history, proving Nazi racial theories wrong with every delivery. Corporal John L. Houston drove 48 hours straight, delivering ammo to the 2nd Armored Division at Cambrai, collapsing at the wheel 3 times but revived by fellow drivers to keep going. Private Booker T. Washington's truck caught fire from overheated brakes while carrying medical supplies. Defying protocol, he drove the burning vehicle 2 miles to a field hospital, leaping out as flames reached the cab, saving wounded soldiers from both sides. These stories, multiplied thousands of times, revealed an American military culture alien to the Germans: individual initiative, calculated risk, and mission overrules mentality. The drivers' defiance of racism was as powerful as their defiance of logistics. They knew Nazi ideology deemed them inferior, yet they outperformed Germany's best. German prisoners, forced to load Red Ball trucks, were stunned by African American sergeants who calculated loads faster than German engineers and spoke better English than their instructors, treating captives with fairness that contradicted Nazi propaganda. The Red Ball Express wasn't just a supply line, it was psychological warfare. German soldiers could hear the endless roar of truck engines night after night, a constant reminder of American abundance while they rationed 3 rounds per rifle. The sound became a weapon, eroding morale. American PSYOPs units amplified this, broadcasting truck engine noises toward German lines when no convoys were present. German units reported these ghost convoys as real, showing how deeply the Red Ball had shaken them. French civilians, too, felt the impact. After years of German occupation and scarcity, the sight of endless American trucks, drivers tossing chocolate, cigarettes, and soap to children, proved Allied victory was inevitable. German intelligence noted a 400% spike in French resistance activity along Red Ball routes. The population that accepted our occupation now opposes it, they reported. The Red Ball's visibility, with headlights blazing and no camouflage, baffled Germans. General Oberst Heinz Guderian, reviewing reports in East Prussia, refused to believe them. No army advances 60 miles daily for a week. This is propaganda. But intercepted American radio traffic, broadcast openly without codes, confirmed it. The Americans' confidence in their speed and supply overwhelmed German planning. By early September, the Red Ball faced its greatest test. Patton's Third Army had advanced so far, over 700 miles round trip, that even the Red Ball strained to keep up. Drivers were collapsing, trucks disintegrating. German intelligence, sensing weakness, reported on September 8 via General der Panzertruppen Otto von Manschufel, American supply lines show signs of collapse. Convoy intervals have stretched to 15 minutes. This is our chance. But the Americans adapted faster than the Germans could exploit. Within 72 hours, the Red Ball reorganized, intermediate transfer points cut runs to 350 miles, driver rotations eased exhaustion, forward maintenance bases doubled vehicle availability. By September 12, tonnage delivery had increased. The crisis strengthened the system. The Americans also supplemented with large-scale aerial supply. On September 16, 900 C-47 flights delivered 2,700 tons in a single day, 9 times the Luftwaffe's peak at Stalingrad. The Germans couldn't match this industrial arithmetic. When the original Red Ball route to Chartres clogged, new routes sprang up overnight: White Ball to Paris, Green Diamond to Railheads, Red Lion to Brussels, ABC to Charleroi. Each was operational in 48 hours, while German planners needed weeks for similar shifts. The Red Ball Express forced a reckoning within the American military. Its success rested on African American soldiers who, despite segregation and discrimination, proved indispensable. General Dwight Eisenhower, visiting Red Ball operations in September 1944, saw this firsthand. His aide, Captain Harry Butcher, noted, "The general watched colored drivers, 20 hours on, and said, 'These men are winning the war as surely as any infantry.' We need to reconsider many things." Their performance fueled pressure for military integration, realized 3 years later. For the drivers, every mile was a rebuke to Nazi racial ideology and American prejudice. German prisoners loading trucks were stunned by African-American sergeants' skill and humanity, shattering Nazi propaganda. SS racial publications stopped mentioning American logistics, unable to reconcile the evidence. The drivers knew the irony and drove harder for it, proving Hitler wrong with every ton delivered. By October 1944, advancing railheads reduced the Red Ball's necessity, but its 82-day run had rewritten warfare. It delivered 412,193 tons over 122 million ton-miles, using 5,958 trucks daily, peaking at 7,000 and 23,000 drivers. It consumed 57 million gallons of fuel, 180,000 tires, and destroyed 5,000 trucks, losses that would have crippled any other army but were mere overhead for America. The Red Ball enabled Patton to liberate Paris, reach the German border, and shorten the war by an estimated 180 days. German commanders admitted defeat not to tanks or planes, but to trucks. Field Marshal Walter Model wrote, "We were defeated by American trucks." General Oberst Heinz Guderian called the Red Ball a flowing river of material that drowned our forces. Field Marshal Albert Kesselring said, "You militarized your society's production capacity. We fought your factories." The $100 million cost was a bargain, saving $250 million daily in war expenses. The Red Ball Express didn't just win a war, it reshaped logistics forever. Its veterans, mostly African American, returned to America and built the modern trucking industry. Companies like Yellow Freight and Roadway were founded by Red Ball drivers who applied wartime lessons: volume trumps efficiency, speed beats perfection. The operations principles, redundancy, decentralization, standardization, became global logistics doctrine. German engineers studied it post-war, with General Franz Halder noting in 1950, "The Red Ball proved logistics determined strategy. We learned too late." In 1994, a U.S. Postal Service stamp honored the Red Ball Express, recognizing its overshadowed role in victory. Veterans at the ceremony spoke of pride in proving their worth against all odds. The operation's scars remain on French highways: ruts, hasty bridges, abandoned trucks, but its true monument is the shortened war and lives saved. The Red Ball Express teaches us that victory in war and life comes from relentless determination, ingenuity, and breaking the rules when it matters. Those 23,000 drivers, defying prejudice and physics, showed the world what's possible when you keep moving forward. Want to dive deeper into this incredible story? Visit your local library, explore military history archives, or share this tale of American grit with someone who needs inspiration. The Red Ball Express didn't just deliver supplies, it delivered a lesson: when the odds seem impossible, keep driving.